My name is Roderick MacKay and I am the writer-director of The Furnace. I was inspired to make The Furnace really when I stumbled upon by accident an old black and white photo. This would have been some 6 years before the film was actually made. And it was a picture of a Muslim cameleer in his traditional garb, flanked by a long camel train, but standing in the otherwise very familiar Western Australian outback in the 1890s. It struck me as an incredible image that I'd not seen before. And it was really the catalyst to me then learning about the history of Australia's Muslim, Sikh and Hindu cameleers who first arrived in Australia over 150 years ago, and who of course were numbered in their thousands at the peak of their population, and who today pretty much remain the unsung pioneers of Australia's inland development. So I had no idea about this chapter in our history, and it really recalibrated my understanding of the traditional Aussie outback, and to include this multitude of peoples who were a part of that landscape and a part of our nation building, but who've been omitted from history and our mythologizing of the Australian frontier. So that was really what drove me to try and to make this film. There were lots of challenges over the course of making this film. It was an ambitious debut feature film, and logistically managing it all was quite taxing at times on the creative process. We were shooting on Yamaji Budimaya and Nunda country in remote Western Australia, and it was pretty rugged terrain. One location was only accessible via helicopter. It's 40 degrees most days, and a couple of times it edged into the 50s. It's also a road movie, so the characters don't spend more than 1 or 2 scenes in a single location before they continue their journey. So you basically need to find a great location for pretty much every scene in the film. And of course, traveling out to these locations each day, it eats into your shooting time. All in all, we did about a year's worth of location scouting before we shot. Look, it's a period film, so we're building sets, we built a town, a prospectors camp, and much more. And at the heart of this film, there is an ensemble of culturally, religiously, and ethnically diverse characters, which you want to try and represent, of course, with as much authenticity as possible. So that's a huge undertaking for your costume department. The film's dialogue is also spoken across 6 different languages, 5 of which I don't speak, and one of those languages is an Indigenous sleeping language. So amidst all of that, you're getting buffeted around by the process and adapting where you have to, but ultimately trying to hold on to your vision. So in short, everything was a challenge, really. On a surface level, I hope the film just succeeds at spotlighting this little known but rich history of foundational Australia, and in doing so, it weaves the cameleers into our mythologizing of the outback. At a deeper level, I hope audiences, no matter who they are, empathise with the fraught journey of our central character, a young Muslim man searching for identity and a home in a new land, because Australia is a nation built on migration. More specifically, I hope that Australia's Muslim, Sikh and Hindu migrant communities can watch this film and walk a little taller as Australians, knowing that their forebears have been in this country for over 150 years. And I hope that in some small way, the film can enact a more inclusive sense of Australian identity, really. Another thing that I really hope people take away from this film is that special relationship that cameleers and Aboriginal people did share, which has a lot of historic truth to it, and it lives on today. So in depicting that in the film, there are scenes with cameleer characters and Aboriginal characters that are spoken entirely in the Indigenous Yamaji Budimaya language. And very sadly, a year before we started shooting, the last true speaker of the Budimaya language actually passed away, which meant Budimaya officially became what's known as a sleeping language. So for the filmmaking process, we no longer had this one pillar of knowledge within the community to help us with that translation process. So it became a holistic community consultation whereby we were drawing upon fragments of shared knowledge to get that translation right. And so the result of that is when you see these scenes, you're seeing something for the first time. You're seeing, in the case of one scene, a Muslim Afghan, a Punjab Sikh man, and a Buddy Meyer man sitting around a campfire, and they're all talking in the Buddy Meyer character's language. They're all speaking in Buddy Meyer. And so, you know, I think that's lost on people when they watch the film, just actually what it took, of course, to make that happen, but actually how unique and special depicting that actually is. I guess the one piece of advice that I'll give probably actually relates more to the writers out there, but you know, this was my debut feature film, and when you're starting out, you're often told to write what you know. But I think the better advice is to follow your interests and write what you're passionate about, whatever that might be, or wherever it takes you. Don't be afraid to jump into subject matter that you're not necessarily personally familiar with to begin with. Ultimately, you know, take on things that scare you as much as they excite you.